The Canadian Premier League 2026 season is starting this weekend. One new expansion team in Supra Du Quebec and one team gone in Cavalry FC. It is time to run down all 8 teams in the CPL and predict where they will all finish in the regular season standings this season. Coming in at number 8, I have Vancouver FC. The worst team in the CPL last season. This off-season for Vancouver was not great, as player transfer-wise, things were kind of decent in, decent out, but the big news of the offseason for Vancouver was former head coach Afshin Gotbi was suing the club for $500,000 in an unpaid loan he had lent to the team when he started coaching them prior to their inaugural season. So apparently when Afshin Gotbi came to coach Vancouver FC, the club asked him for a $500,000 loan to help with the startup costs of the team, which he obliged with, and they have not paid him back, resulting in them being sued. So rough start financially to the offseason for Vancouver FC, and with that being how their offseason started, unsurprisingly their transfers were not massively earth-shattering. They have some good pickups in Maury Donor, Tom Field, Marcelo Polisi, and also Swedish defender Isaac Sisson-Combo. However, the big news and possibly the biggest signing of the entire CPL offseason also went to Vancouver with Lys Mousset signing with the team. Now, Lys Mousset is an incredibly interesting signing. A French striker, Mousset made 99 Premier League appearances, English Premier League appearances, over 5 seasons for AFC Bournemouth and Sheffield United between 2016 and 2021, including in 2019-2020 being Sheffield United's joint top goal scorer in the Premier League, scoring 6 goals. However, since 2020, injuries and a lack of fitness and a lack of motivation have really killed his career, as since 2020 he has made just 40 appearances in all competitions across the German League, the French League, the Italian League, and the League of Ireland. He spent some time at Bochum, where he did not play a single game and was eventually suspended from the team as he had a reported bad motivation and lack of professionalism at the team. And after 13 months off following the 2022-2023 season, he signed with Bohemians for the 2025 League of Ireland season, playing just 9 appearances and scoring just 1 goal for the League of Ireland side last season, where he was reportedly constantly picking up injuries and not playing well. They said he had to get fit if he wanted to be a professional footballer. Reportedly, he was significantly out of shape showing up to that Bohemians camp. So a signing for Vancouver FC that, looking into it, looks like more trouble than it's worth, and a signing that reeks of desperation for me, for a club that is desperately trying to sign a guy who might be, in terms of raw talent, the most talented guy in the Canadian Premier League. But who knows if he'll ever be fit, how many games he'll play. I'd be shocked if we get more than 6 matches out of him for Vancouver FC this season and more than 2 goals. However, if Vancouver FC somehow is the club that's able to get this guy to turn his career back in the right direction, this is a massive signing for them. In 7th place, we have Pacific FC. 6'5" Sporks' second team in the league, as they own both Vancouver and Pacific. Neither of them are doing very well, both on the pitch or financially, as near the end of last season it was reported that Pacific FC owed the city of Landford $651,000 in back payments for renting training grounds and office spaces from the city. So counting both of 6'5's BC teams, that's over $1 million owed to either cities or former employees of the clubs, which is not a good look. And obviously the distraction off the pitch translates to a team on the pitch that doesn't look up to par with the rest of the league. A lot of this Pacific roster is the same as it was in the 2025 season, which is not a good thing given that they finished below a Cavalry FC team which folded. The continued development of Christian Greco-Taylor and a full season of a healthy Ronan Krat are the 2 big positives coming for Pacific this season. Also having a full year of Alejandro Diaz should help them potentially be better than last season. However, they did lose Sean Yun, which is a massive loss in their midfield. They did sign Teres Gormurka from the Australian League to replace him. It'll be interesting to see how he slots into this lineup and if he does replace Sean Yun. But overall, Pacific team which might be a little bit better than last season, but not a team I see challenging for the playoffs. In 6th, we have Supra Du Quebec, the CPL's long-awaited Quebec expansion team. Supra doing a very interesting thing where they are signing only Quebecois based players or players who have had a significant amount of their development contributed to Quebec. Off the drop, this team seems well organized. They've picked up some solid names in the Canadian Premier League. Alessandro Biello and Sean Rea are two very exciting young talents, and David Chouanière was a great pickup, one of the better players for Forge FC throughout their entire history. However, the geographical player limit of only Quebecois-based players does hurt Supra a bit on the top end. They don't have any big name international guys, and I feel like the top names on their roster just aren't quite at the level of other teams in the CPL. However, I feel like overall as a whole, they have some solid depth and they're well organized. They just don't seem to have off the drop the top end guys that the rest of the league does. And also, this team seems to be very heavily based in CS Saint Laurent players. Now, CS Saint Laurent did win League One Quebec last year. However, taking half of a League One Quebec roster and moving it up to the Canadian Premier League is not really a recipe for success. It is a step up in play. It's a step up in level. Ideally, you'd want to take the best one or two players from every team and move them up. And yes, they do have a lot of players from around League One Quebec, but the ownership group and the management group is familiar with CS Saint Laurent, and they might have been favoring guys off of that CS Saint Laurent roster than they know, rather than getting the best talent available in Quebec. So it'll be very interesting to see how this team's Quebec-only player recruitment strategy fares in the Canadian Premier League. I definitely don't think they'll be terrible. I think they will be a solid CPL team, but I don't think that year one they're going to be a contender right out of the gate. Moving on to the Halifax Wanderers. The Wanderers have parted ways with former head coach Patrice Geyser and signed former Vancouver Whitecaps FC coach Vanni Sartini. Big get getting a former MLS coach into the Canadian Premier League. Halifax has had an offseason where I don't think they've gotten better. I think maybe if anything they've gone slightly worse. They did sell Thiago Coimbra to IFK Gothenburg in Sweden. That's the most notable outgoing move for them. They do get a transfer fee for that. However, with him gone, they haven't really added any offense this offseason, and so I'm curious as to where the goals are going to come from to replace the 11 he scored for Halifax last season. And on top of that, all their strikers are relatively young and unproven, so very well possible that someone could step it up and become a consistent scorer in the CPL, but it definitely is a question mark as to where the offense is going to come from on this team. Defensively, they signed Marcus Godinho and Marco Carducci in net, convincing Carducci to leave Cavalry, who he's been on since the start of the CPL's existence. Two very solid gets for this team. Godinho, a guy with Canadian national team experience, a Carducci, a guy who's consistently been one of the best keepers in the Canadian Premier League year in, year out. Halifax is definitely a team where their defense is going to be stronger than their offense this season. Finding offense is going to be the key for them, but they should be a playoff squad this year. My prediction to come in fourth this season is Inter Toronto FC. Yes, York has rebranded again, this time going from York United to Inter Toronto, fully embracing Toronto in a move I think everyone saw coming since the ownership changed hands a couple of years ago. Honestly, I really like what this Inter Toronto team has done this offseason. They've brought Ollie Bassett back to the Canadian Premier League in what is a massive signing, former CPL Player of the Year, and Benny Badibanya has also signed for the club, coming from Forge FC. Two very talented offensive international player signings. Those are two guys who you want to have running your offense in the Canadian Premier League, and two guys who have both proven they can score a boatload of goals in this league. Defensively, they bring in two very experienced Mexican defenders in Carlos Guzman and Raul Lopez, and also Juan Cordova returns to the team after a year abroad. Three very experienced, very solid fullback options for this club. I really like what this Inter Toronto team is building this year. They definitely could be a contender this season. They have been an outside looking in 4th, 5th place team in the league the past couple of years, and this one I think is a season where they really could finally break into the top 3 and be a true contender alongside Cavalry, Ottawa, and Forge. Which brings us to the top 3, and third I have Ottawa. The reigning champions from last season honestly might have a little bit of Pacific 2021 issues, where they won the CPL and then a lot of their players went off to greener pastures. Icicle kick scorer David Rodriguez has gone back to Atletico San Luis now that his loan is done. Sam Salter, the CPL single season goals record setter last season, has gone to Gais in the Swedish top flight. Alberto Zapater has retired. Kevin Dos Santos has gone to Derry City in the League of Ireland. And Amer Didic and goalkeeper Nathan Ingham have both gone to Cavalry all across Canada, also in the CPL. A lot of the key players to this team's success is gone. Now, the young center back trio are all still there. And also the signings they have brought in all do look legit. Cameron Habibullah returns to the CPL to join this team. He should be able to provide some offense. And Norwegian striker Erling Mikkelbust is the big question mark for this team. He could definitely be a solid striker in the Canadian Premier League, or if he is sort of like a Monty Patterson, a guy who has some hype coming in but doesn't live up to it, that could be a problem for Ottawa. In my opinion, the incoming transfers don't match the talent they've lost in the outgoing ones, but Ottawa definitely still is a solid team in the CPL this season, and they definitely are still a contender, just not as heavy as a favorite as they were last year. Coming in second, I have Cavalry FC. Cavalry keep a lot of their roster from last season, and on top of that, they're going to have a full year of the return of Dan Klump, who they brought back with just 8 games left in last season. Him on top of Amir Didic, 2 very, very good center backs in the CPL that Cavalry are going to be running this year. Add that to the addition of Adam Perlman on loan from Toronto FC. This team has one of the best back ends in the CPL. Nathan Ingham probably is a bit of a step down from Marco Carducci, but a very, very solid CPL keeper in net for Cavalry as well. Pretty much all of the midfield and offense is the same as it was last season. This is a Cavalry team that they were almost there last season in the final, pushed extra time away in Ottawa, and this season they are yet again going to be a solid contender and definitely in the fight for both the regular season and playoff championships. And my prediction for first place, of course, Forge FC. The kings of the CPL. Forge has either won the regular season or the playoffs in every single season in the Canadian Premier League's history. They pick up goalkeeper Dimitri Berthaud from Montpellier, a guy who has been Montpellier's second or third choice keeper for 6 years, and in Forge's appearance in the CONCACAF Champions Cup, he looked really, really good, like almost too good of a keeper for the Canadian Premier League. On top of that, they have resurrected Daniel Krutzen's career after he retired a bit over a year ago due to consistent injuries. Apparently, he thinks he can come back, and when he was healthy at Forge, he was the best defender in the Canadian Premier League. Definitely a guy who, if he's healthy again, makes Forge's backline look so good. And on top of that, they bring in Antoine Baptiste, another international defender who just adds to the strength of this team. Their offense, no real additions, everything's pretty much the same. The real question mark for Forge is in the midfield. They lose Alex Ashnioti-Janssen, who has been a crucial part of this team for their entire existence, and Alessandro Hojabrpour, both of those guys going off to Europe, and both going to be massive losses to this Forge team. Now, the midfield, they really did not pick up anything to replace Hojabrpour and Ashnioti-Janssen. I know Ashnioti-Janssen has played a lot of center back recently, but Crutzen and Batiste replaced them in the back end. Him in his presence to be able to play in the midfield has not been replaced at all, and with Hojabrpour gone, with the way this current roster looks, he probably would have been playing more midfield here this season. Tristan Borges definitely is going to be sitting back in the midfield more, and Noah Jensen, this is his time to shine. He's proven he can step up before, and they're going to need him every single game this year. A lot of this Forge team's ability this season rides on how healthy a 35-year-old Kyle Becker can stay, and if Kyle Becker, as he is now on the wrong side of 35, can he continue to perform at the level that he's always performed in the Canadian Premier League. This is probably the weakest midfield Forge has ever had in this league. It's probably the strongest defense they've ever had in this league, and the offense is the same as it's always been. But very rare that we can look at a Forge team and point out an obvious hole, and the obvious hole is the midfield with this squad. They still should be the favorite to win the whole league this year, but they definitely are beatable. So there you have it. That is how I think every team will perform this season in the Canadian Premier League. The season starts this weekend. It should be the most exciting season of CPL football ever. New offside rule being trialed this year. I'll link my video about that in the end card. And as always, if you like this video, hit like. If you want to see more stuff, hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Link is down below in the description, and I will see you next time.